Hey everybody, welcome back to Vedic Sage. I'm Dr. Dhaliwal, and today we're going to be talking about what happens when the dosha being Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, enter into the Dhatu system. So in a previous video, we talked about Dhatus, the 7 main Dhatus. So Dhatus are the tissue that hold or make up the organs of the body. So now we're going to take a look and focus on Vata Dosha. So Vata Dosha, we know it's predominantly made of the ether and air qualities that condense down and form Vata Dosha, which has the qualities of dry, light, rough, cold, subtle, and mobile. So what happens when these qualities enter into certain dhatus, for example, rasa, rakta, mamsa, mida, and so on? What happens? How does that get expressed in signs and symptoms? So let's begin with Vata Dosha, which likes to house itself, make itself at home, and accumulate within the colon of the GI tract. So we're going to be taking a look at what's called Samprapti. Samprapti is the pathogenesis, or how does disease come about? And we look at it from a step-by-step fashion, starting off with step number 1, which is the accumulation of a dosha. So as the qualities of Vata accumulate, qualities such as dry, light, cold, subtle, and mobile, whether it be from environmental, lifestyle, the foods that we take in, or the thoughts that we entertain, all of these factors can lead to the accumulation of Vata within the colon. And that's considered Sanchaya, which is the accumulation of Vata. And for example, the cold quality of the Vata dosha can manifest itself as constipation. The person may feel constipated with lower abdominal distension. The second phase is basically the dry element also comes into play along with the cold quality of Vata. And this worsens the constipation. They continue to have the lower abdominal distension, as well as perhaps having some flank pain. So that's the second stage, in which the dosha is still within the home, of the colon, for example, for Vata. The home of Vata we think of as being the colon, the home of Pitta being the small intestines, and the home of Kapha being the stomach, or the fundus of the stomach. The third stage in this Samprapti, or the pathogenesis, is the spreading quality of the dosha. For example, Vata has a mobile quality, which it's able to leave the GI tract and enter into different bodily tissues, and that's through the mobile quality. So the first place that Vata is going to try to enter is into the rasa dhatu, which is the plasma or the lymph tissue. Now we need to say that each of these dhatus has almost a defense barrier, which is Agni. So we've talked about the main Agni, which is Jathata Agni, which is the digestive fire within the gastrointestinal tract. We can look at that as being the ultimate barrier of preventing any pathogens entering into the system as we consume food. Likewise, each dhatu has an Agni as well. So rasa also has an Agni, and that Agni is going to try to maintain the balance. It's going to be the defense system of that particular tissue, and thought of as the immune system of that dhatu or tissue. So what happens is Vata is going to enter into the rasa dhatu, and if that Agni is impaired, for example, if rasa dhatu Agni is impaired, then the qualities of Vata are going to try to enter into rasa dhatu, or the plasma and the lymph tissue. So for example, the subtle qualities of Vata can enter into rasa. The subtle, light, dry qualities can lead to dehydration and reducing the plasma volume. So with dehydration, you can have hypovolemia, hypotension, tachycardia, because the heart tries to compensate for decreased blood pressure with an increase in heart rate. Also, one of the byproducts of rasa dhatu is the skin tissue. Actually, the 3 main byproducts of rasa is the top layer of the skin, the lactation, and menstruation in women. So, for example, if there's a dry quality in rasa, it could lead to the dry byproduct of dry skin. So a person can have dry, rough, scaly skin. They can have decreased menses or decreased lactation if these dry, subtle, cold qualities enter into the rasa dhatu. So this already demonstrates the importance of maintaining balance of the doshas primarily in their own home, for example, Vata within the colon. But as the imbalance continues or worsens, the Vata dosha can enter into the rasa and further penetrate into Rakta Dhatu, the red blood cells. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, this is one of the explanations of microcytic anemia, or decreased size of the red blood cells. Now we know that the red blood cell allows for gas exchange. It allows for bringing oxygen into the body and delivering it to the tissue. Likewise, it helps to remove the carbon dioxide from the tissue and remove it through expiration. So if Vata Dosha enters into the Rakta Dhatu, which implies that Rakta Dhatu Agnis diminish, this can also express itself as poor circulation. Okay, these people often have cold hands, cold feet, poor circulation. And because of this mobile quality entering into Rakta Dhatu and influencing the heart, this can lead to cardiac dysrhythmias in which people feel palpitations. Now, what happens if the Vata Dosha penetrates into the Mamsa Dhatu, or the muscle tissue? This can express itself as muscle spasms, tics, tremors. Likewise, the dry qualities of Vata can dry out the fat tissue, reduce the lubrication, and therefore, because of decreased muscle tissue, decreased fat tissue, these people are very slim, emaciated. And again, because of the decreased lubricating factor of fat tissue, having been dried out by the Vata Dosha, can lead to cracking, popping, and perhaps even dislocation of the bone tissue, which is Ashti Dhatu. So what happens when the Vata Dosha enters into Mudgett tissue, which is the nerve tissue? Well, the mobile and subtle qualities can lead to numbness and tingling sensation. There can be neuralgia. Often Vata is associated with pain, so they can have neuralgia, which is pain along a nerve tract, such as sciatica. It could be pain in the trigeminal nerve. So these qualities of the dosha, for example, Vata Dosha, can express itself in all of the individual dhatus or tissues. And lastly, if Vata Dosha enters into the male and female reproductive organs, for example, Shukra being the male reproductive system, and Artava being the female reproductive system, this can also express itself as infertility, or for females, it can express itself as dysmenorrhea or decreased menses. For example, we've talked about Rasa Dhatu having three main byproducts, being the top layer of the skin, lactation, and menstruation. So that dry quality within Rasa can also affect the Artava, which is, for example, decreased menstruation due to the dry, subtle qualities. So this was just an overview to see the interaction between how a dosha, the qualities of a dosha, can influence or affect the dhatus or the bodily tissue, and express itself in certain signs and symptoms. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, take care.